You're watching Morning at NTV.
Now, artists have often played a key role in social movements around the world, addressing issues ranging from immigration to sexism to gun violence. Through their expressive talents, artists can challenge cultural narratives, shift imagery, and inspire emotions in a way that traditional political methods alone rarely do. In a 2013 essay entitled Change the Culture, Change the World, artist Fabiana Rodriguez puts it this way, in quotes, "You may attend a rally or vote, but you also read books, listen to music, engage with visual art, turn on the radio and create your identity through culture." I couldn't believe that anymore. Artists are central, not peripheral, to social change. To have the movements that make the wave, you need cultural workers. A Canadian business survey conducted in 2008 found that 86% of respondents believed art made for more integrated and healthier communities, while 88% thought it had a positive impact on health and well-being. Now, to talk to us about this and more, we have Mr. Alex Kwizera, the man behind the signature Kwizera art, famous that for the picture of Barbie crowning Bobi Wine after his victory as MP. I hope he never got in trouble for that. But I have him in studio right here. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Alex Kwizera.
Pleasure, Romeo.
So tell us, artful social change. How has the journey been for you, Mr. Alex?
The journey has been wonderful, if I may say, for the start. I mean, 88% is a good percentage, and it's very motivating for art.
True.
Yeah. So from where we come from, being stigmatized for being artists, you know, they used to tell us things like you'll end up painting walls, and is that the career you would want to have? To now, art being on billboards, you know, featuring in the media as political and social commentary, I can gladly say we are in a safe space.
My friend, we grew up being beaten for just doing art. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Tell me some of the challenges that you've been grappling with, over the years.
So, like you say, from the start, even with my upbringing as a child, I'm that guy who used to scribble in every exercise book. On the other side, I had mathematics on one side. I had drawings on the other side. So we were beaten for all of that as children. You imagine what it has to do to you mentally, and as you grow up, you are stigmatized by things like that. Oh, you will never amount to anything because you a visual artist, because at the time you can't blame whoever was in the guardianship, because at the time people didn't see possibilities in a lot of skill-based careers. You know, we had only giant careers. You had to be a doctor, you had to be a pilot. We sang songs like those. I want to be a pilot when I grow up. But to where we are now, careers have embraced all sorts of skill-based jobs. We meet so many young people say, I want to draw pictures like you. I want to impact social change to an element which you are bringing these pictures. So challenges or no challenges, it's the pull and stretch and crush.
The attitudes are really changing in our society, because while growing up there was a different negative attitude towards art. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
If you did art, they would tell you verifiably, you're going to fail when you grow up. So it was only 2 or 3 things, only sciences in that regard, and maybe in some other technical issues in that regard, mathematics, sciences. But then right here you are, very, very established. 5 years ago, you were given a deal by KCCA to beautify the city with your murals. How has that been? Tell me about that.
That's great. Actually, those projects have come one after another. KCCA has been very embracing in this idea of adding art as an element into community spaces. Now I can gladly say I'm actually onto another project that is helping build new toilets for Kampala City, advanced toilets. These toilets are going to be cool. They are going to have Wi-Fi in them. They are going to be eco-friendly, LED lighting. So art has moved from the walls like we knew it to now people spaces, which is an element in contemporary art.
Let's talk about using art to effect social change. How have you been? Have you been successful in that regard? using art to effect social change?
I can gladly say I have,
Yes.
because there
Tell us
are
about
three ways in which this has been effective. Even going back, let me tell you a little bit of the history about
Go ahead.
art in social change. From back way before the Renaissance, they had an element of Dadaism as a style in art, where people of the time used art as a tool to enhance, to amplify the grievances of the people at the time, to help shape their politics, which is, as you know, art has been evolving over time. This is the time when art grew into another element of surrealism, which is the style you see in the cartoons that we make by playing with what you know for real, and switching it around to give it a creative element to provoke a certain kind
Use
of
of
message.
visualization to affect
absolutely.
change.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
now we have artworks in media. We have artworks on billboards. We have artworks in open spaces as live murals, you know, as charity fundraisers. We have art playing a very big and important role in all aspects of life, because it has started being. It hasn't just been started. It has evolved, and
It has evolved.
now it is on the forefront of this push.
Indeed,
change.
yes, indeed, art has evolved, just kind of like music. You
Absolutely.
have artists like yourself doing very, very great stuff, using change to affect, using art to affect change. You also have people like Mr. Bobby Wine, who uses
Absolutely.
music
Yeah.
to affect change in society.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your murals, your art. Have you ever gotten in trouble, or have you ever made a contentious artwork that got you in trouble with the government?
I have not directly gotten into this exchange of bad energy, but you can sense the whole vibration by my family first. There's a bit of tension when they tell you they are worried for you by the standards of the kind of direction you partake in the work you do. They worry for me because they have a feeling we are in difficult times, but they forget that art is always been bigger than just one man. It's always been an element in helping people amplify their grievances, to have leaders held accountable by the things they do, the things they promise, the things they say. Yeah, absolutely.
So that will take me to my next question. How has the political environment affected your work as an artist?
Well, one thing is always mistaken when it comes to art. When someone sees you make a drawing that is commentary on the situation that is happening, they always mistake it for propaganda. An artist comes from a background where they do not necessarily incline to either parties, you know, but only represent power, people being brought to the forefront. So you find too much conflict in people who are one-sided, telling you, oh yeah, you see. But again, a picture carries three voices, you know. It carries what it says as it stands alone. It carries what the artist intends to pass on to the people. Then it carries what the people derive from it. Now that is too much area for you to decide what the message you derive from an artwork. So you leave it to interpretation. It doesn't have too much to do with the sole maker of the artwork, because there's no maker without the viewer or the perceiver. Yeah.
And that mural of Bobby Wine and the wife, it didn't get you in any trouble?
Oh yeah, the painting. No. That one was rather a token of appreciation.
A token of appreciation.
Tribute, because from where this man comes from, to me as a painter and an illustrator, as a man from the low level of being to higher representation of something that is bigger than me, it is very highly inspirational from a man to come from the grass.
Awesome.
To a little bit of grace, to represent something bigger than himself.
And you did talk about humble beginnings. Awesome. So we have very, very good artists who are right there in the ghettos, but they really, really want to bring out their work so that it can be showcased on an international or even, better yet, a national level. But then they do not have the money or the logistics to go about what they should be doing, and the society hasn't made it easy for them, because society has told them, hey, if you're going to be venturing into art, there is no money. You die a broke person. So what words of encouragement would you have for the viewer right there, the young novice, the young artist right there watching the show right now who would want to venture into this industry?
Well, for the young people, it's always been, I wouldn't say I'm the best person to give advice, but if I had to.
But you've persevered.
Absolutely. It's all this.
So how have you persevered?
All this stigma that comes around being a creative, be it a poet, a writer, a musician. We suffer the same kind of background of where, from the past, those 5 bigger careers are amplified. All I can tell you is devotion. For anybody to be great at anything, you have to allow yourself to fully be consumed by it. Nobody else knows best what you can do than yourself. It starts with you and the belief you have in yourself. And everything else is rather secondary. Like you had all those words thrown at you, you have a bit of people telling you how they experienced your work in a negative way or either way. What keeps you in all of this is the devotion you have and the fully consumption that you allow this career to elevate you to a certain point in your life.
And in 2014, in one of those events that you had organized where you were speaking at the Nakasero TEDx event?
Oh, TEDx.
In 2014, TEDx.
Yes,
Yes, you did mention that none of these professionals who came to you asking for your services never asked for a transcript at any point. We have artists right there who are at home languishing, saying, hey, I even fear knocking on an office because I do not have a transcript, but they do have the skills. What advice would you have for them?
Well, like I had said earlier, the world is changing. Skill-based careers are being elevated and put at a certain level as compared to those top 5 careers that were said before. So for now, all you can do is embrace what you are made of, what you do best, yeah, and that is all that you have to give. Yeah.
Any success stories?
Wow, I have quite a good number of them. Jidena was here recently. He endorsed the art piece we did for him as House of DJs as a gift. We shall soon be making album art for international artists. Yeah, we have painted murals. We have brought Europe to Uganda for German Unification Day. We have artworks on billboards now with Centenary Bank. Art has rather amplified my feat to a whole other scope that even me I cannot contain.
So how can we replicate?
I'm very grateful.
You're very grateful.
Yeah.
So how can we replicate other Alex Quizitors into, you know, the realm, so that we ensure that other young people are also benefiting from this
The energy
industry?
is right. I meet so many young people tell me what an inspiration I am in a way I don't even see it. But that means the work has preceded the man in the flesh. So that is motivation enough, because from the background of all the things that we do, we have always had somebody to look forward to, you know, which is a wonderful thing. So sooner or later, young creatives are now telling me, oh, I'm a bit struggling with my parents, but they are about to believe in this thing. So I need you to help me, convince me. What advice can you give me to tell to my people about this career and its possibilities? So you see, it's very promising, which is a wonderful thing. That means the world is waking up to visual art as an element in all of this.
And indeed, visualization was hinted as one of the SDGs right there, and something that we should achieve by the year 2030. And you use visualization very, very well. You narrated some of those stories in 2014 where you were riding on a border, and then you happened to pass by this track that was full of cows that were actually tied very in an inhumane way on the track. So they ended up, you know, releasing waste on the top of each other. So in your own way, you use your own visualization to get into the heads of the cows, to like you narrated what the cows were thinking in that particular moment. How do you use visualization? How do I cultivate that visualization skill and make it so pertinent?
Well, art is like any other practical career. It's about time.
First, narrate for us that story. Very
Oh,
well.
that story is wonderful. I meet so many scenarios
Made
that
me
are
happy.
so,
Yeah.
that's what has made me an illustrator.
Yeah.
An illustrator is a very dramatic artist who envisions things that everybody else probably has seen, but adds a little twist of sarcasm.
So take us back to that scenario.
Yeah. So I leave my home every other day. I still see this image of a truck full of cows, which happen to be one of my favorite creatures on this earth, you know, from the background of where I come
True.
from. They are tails are tied all up
Yes.
to the poles, and they are shitting in each other's faces.
Wow.
It gets me wondering, you know, you know, we could be human beings, but to a dog, we are a dog, you know. To a cow, we might be a cow. Yeah? So why would we treat a creature in a way like this? So it gets me thinking. It makes me wondering, what could the cow be thinking if you were in a space like that? And you see, for art, it gives us space to want to be in different spaces. That's how you change anything. You can't change anything without envisioning what it feels like to be there. So I always find these so many scenarios that goats being carried on borders. It's always rather interesting, and it provokes me to create, because creation has an element of the fifth, an extra knowledge. You have to add, almost like the little salt you add in the stew, not too much, but just a little bit to make the stew taste best. So inspiration for me is picked on everyday life, all aspects of. When you see me do political and social commentary, I am putting my shoes in the space of those whose voice needs a little amplification, without necessarily it being propaganda.
So using art to affect social change, right there. We have Alex Quizada in studio, and we are talking about that conversation. How best can you use art to affect social change in the country? Jim Carrey from the United States uses art to bash the President Donald Trump. Have you ever used your art to attack any politician in Uganda?
Not necessarily. I have used my art to do a little commentary on what could have prevailed at the time. Yeah, but artists have done this all worldwide. The Banksys are doing graffiti. In a split second, you wake up and you find a large mirror and you don't know how it got there. So this has always been an element in people's spaces. Yeah, it's not necessarily supposed to be propaganda. It's just a little commentary, like a journalist on radio sees what is happening, like a rapist on Twitter have been pulled out. So you do a little commentary. So you mention something about it, but rather this time is visual, as opposed to it being literal and verbal. Yeah.
What message do you have for parents who have a negative attitude towards art, who never encourage their children to take on this direction?
Well, from where I have come from, with a rebellious background of you should have done this, you should do this, this is good for you, this is not. I believe they stand at a time where you can't blame them, because the world is changing, it's evolving. Decade after decade, we are now onto the other decade. Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year, my brother.
Yeah. so much is changing to parents that don't embrace some of these careers. It's quite absurd. Yeah, but if someone is meant to do something, there's no way. The wind always brings you back to where you are supposed to be. In a way, even if the wave comes and it is subconscious, uncalculated, eventually what you are meant to do as a contribution to this earth, which is absurd. You stop an artist from being. An artist is rather a spiritual kind of career. We don't do pictures by our might. This is a godly, given, touched contribution to this world. There's no career I would rather do than pursue a gift like that. So to every parent, if you really don't understand what that means, it's quite absurd. But eventually, the force always puts you in your place. We just have to trust the Most High that gives, that makes you, that brought you here to guide you into your pattern of your contribution.
After assessing the socio-political and economic situation in Uganda, what do you think is the future of art in this country?
Art has its hindrances, like it has always had. That's why it keeps changing. If it wasn't hindered to some extent, it wouldn't evolve. Art in this country has
What were some of those hindrances?
has so much. They are like back in the past. Let's even talk about the Renaissance. Before we come to the Ugandan art, there were dark ages. These dark ages in art history were the time when, because art was found very impactful, so people who were in leadership most times found a way to compress it, you know. So that's what leads to art forms like Islamic art that is non-figurative, you see, because they realize figures have a way of relating to human beings than scribbles and decorative type. So it goes evolving bit by bit. So no matter what compression you put to it, no matter what censorship, it always has a way of coming back to the surface. So for Ugandan art, it's quite absurd that big spaces that are artifact promoting, highly touristic, like the museums, you find them in funny, they have not been taken care of, right? Which is one of the best spaces we can use to promote our culture. You see, there's no culture without art. Everything you know for an artifact that was made for whatever function is an artistic contribution. A tree was put there by God, he says, and gave you so you can carve out a chair to sit on. Before all that process, there's a craftsmanship that has to craft it and make it out. So this is an element that we can't by far let slide. Yeah. So for Uganda, I think embracing art would be one of the biggest things they can prioritize. Why don't we have large? Well, we are on the process of that. Why don't we have large murals in our airports? You know, made by artists.
That is tourism in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Promoting what our country is made of. Why don't we have them spread all over streets, billboards cutting across lane by lane, promoting what it is that the Pearl is about. It starts with art, you see. Art has always been that.
True.
Before you beautify a space, before you transform a space, you bring people to come and envision what it could be.
True.
Or what it should be. That's an artistic contribution, intellectually and practically.
At least the murals show the blueprint of the country, what the people are really made of through the art. So the art showcases the culture of the people. So, Mr. Kwizera, do you believe that we have numerous artists in this country who are talented, but we lack the spaces for them or platforms where they can actually cultivate their talents or showcase their works?
Absolutely. Creatives are always underground, like you say, but that's part of why we are here now. You know, we're bringing art to public spaces. It's a contribution to other events. You are painting at launches. You are live painting. You are doing all sorts of contribution artistically. Yeah? Art has always been. Art is something that cannot be left behind. So many young artists are coming up. Like I told you earlier, they are in your inbox telling you all over social media, you know, your contribution is felt, it is inspirational, it's motivational. So we need, those ones are there. They have always been there. Even, like nature dictates, transformation from the old to the young. Yeah, it's always a contribution. Yes.
So, Alex Kwizera, thank you for having made the time to speak to us. It's been absolutely amazing. I've gotten a lot from you. We have artists who are talented in Uganda, but we don't have the spaces for them to showcase their talent in that regard. Awesome. Thank you for having made the time to speak to us. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Alex Kwizera right here. We've been talking about visual art and how best you can use it to affect change in your society right there. My name is Romeo Busiku. Let's take another short breather. We'll be right back with a lot more information. Don't move a muscle.